the Multimodal Weekly webinar series hosted by the team at 12 Labs. And we've been meeting every Friday from 1:30 p.m. to 30 p.m. Pacific time. And some of the topics that we tend to cover include, research topic in multimodal AI application and projects of multimodal AI in different verticals. Since 12 Labs, we focus on video understanding. Sometimes we have a lot of folks in video AI, interesting video application. Prady is an example here. And sometimes we have folks internally talk about some tutorials and guys using our solution as well. So for today's session, originally we have two speakers, but one of the other speaker currently going to drop out again, due to some work issues. So we're only going to have Prady, presenting today, and he'll talk about his work at Synchronicity Labs, building a video synchronization, lipsync workflow. Me and Soyoung got a chance to meet Prady in person at our office, I think a couple of weeks ago, and definitely super interested about the projects that he's been working on. And if you follow him on Twitter or LinkedIn, you probably come across the viral projects where you see the speaker speaking a different language. So it's sad to see here today, how his team built that project and any other technical aspect associated with that. Also want to quickly read the introduction because a little bit of research on your website right before this webinar. So Prady is a two-time fathers and ex-AI product manager at Microsoft Secure Research and MSR, and as well as computer engineer obsessed with networks of people and products. He got to school at Prady University, where he dabbled in cryptography, psychology, and economics. And before startup, he helped incubate, launch, and scale AI-powered cybersecurity products at Microsoft, impacting over 500 million consumers and $1 trillion worth of publicly traded companies. And he also became the youngest product leader in Johor. So yeah, super excited to have you, and would also love to hear your kind of your story and how you go from big tech to start work as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I think I've been pretty excited about this. So I wanted to keep this conversation kind of casual. I have a presentation set up. It's a lot of videos, so what we're working on is pretty visual, so it's probably easier to show rather than tell. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to be here. When it comes to me, I think that was a great introduction. Basically, in a past life, I was at Microsoft. I was working on a lot of security related products, mostly around how to take. So I worked with the research team. So basically what I was doing was going from a paper into actually implementing the code into how do we get this cutting edge research to actually protect 500 million customers? How do we get it to from a state of just an idea into real world protection? So that was the whole stack. And it was kind of like the 0 to 1 process that I found really interesting. And I'm pretty much doing the same thing now with Sync Labs. I think it's kind of the sweet spot between having an idea and creating magic and actually letting people experience the magic. I think that's the most fun part for me, to be honest. So I will go ahead and present. So feel free to interrupt at any moment. I think I do want to kind of keep this as a conversation more than anything else. I think we're pretty early. We started about almost 3 months ago now, so 2.5 months ago. The research has been something that we've been doing over the last couple of years, but it's all kind of amalgamating into this really cool suite of tools that are designed to both modify and synthesize humans in video. So that's kind of the thesis that we're going after. The purpose of this talk today is to talk about some the more recently what content we've been producing over the last couple of months, as well as what our focus is on today, which is mostly around the use case of localized content. So what do I mean by localization? It's about translation plus maintaining the context, the inherent context of the video, but actually amplifying it in a different language. So it's more than just translation, because let's say going a word by word translation doesn't always maintain the context from language to language. One example is if you're using a lot of idioms, don't never put the cart before the horse. That won't exactly translate word for word into Hindi. or any other language, right? So like the idea behind localization is taking content and making it feel like it was designed for a unique user in a different environment in a different language. So quick agenda. I'm going to walk through just like, who are we? Like, who is the team? Who's behind this? What are we building? What are we focused on right now? What's the kind of the future vision of this? How do we get started? So I don't know if some of you saw, but we basically started from a viral demo. So that's like how our whole like, yeah, I mean, that's how we started our initial traction. That's where we got our initial inbound. What's our current state of progress? So since then, we've been iterating pretty quickly on the model. Our goal is to have basically, I mean, there's two aspects to us. Like one is the inference side and how do we actually serve the model and let users use it? And two is a research side, which is how do we create a training pipeline where we can run experiments week over week and actually let people use experimental models that are not like week over week improvements. Like I think we're trying to take a unique approach to this where we're not just trying to like go and build a model and like in a closed loop over like 3 to 6 months. It's about how can we let someone use the latest training, like basically like the latest trace of the model at the end of the week. So that's something I was actually hoping to have a conversation around because I think just like how to design our training pipeline is something we're thinking about pretty deeply right now. And of course, this audience is probably someone who would be able to give a lot of advice in that. Yeah, I'm also going to talk about what makes us unique and what's the future. So I'll try and paint the picture for just like the group here about like what is the future that we're building towards. I think we all kind of share a similar vision. Like, I mean, I'm assuming all of us are working on video. I think all of us kind of have a unique perspective on what the future of video and the future of content kind of looks like. So that's when I would like to just kind of open it up and have a discussion. So quick thing on who we are. I'm going to show this video real quick.
I'm a two-time founder, computer engineer, and I used to incubate, build, and scale AI products with Microsoft Security Research and MSR. Now, we are the original team behind Wave2Lip. It is the most prolific and versatile lip syncing model that's been used over the last 3 years. We've had over 5,000 stars on GitHub with millions of videos generated and over 100 million views across social media.
Hey, I'm Pavan. I'm two-time founder and engineer from IIT. I've been focused on monetizing state-of-the-art research work at IIT based out of Hyderabad.
Hey, I'm Rudraba, one of the AI researchers behind Wave2Lip. I'm finishing up my PhD at IIT Hyderabad, and I have helped take Wave2Lip to market over the last year, and we have made over $250,000 in this period.
Hi, I'm Prajwal, the other co-AI researcher behind Babelfish. I'm finishing up my PhD with the Visual Geometry Group at Oxford. I'm focused on building applied research products.
Together, our vision is to humanize AI. It's to make these synthetic interactions with AI indifferentiable from humans. So we're getting started by building an API suite of lip syncing and face generation models to just let anyone build on top of. And what we're working on right now is powering real-time AI lip sync for video content localization and live streams. We are
Yeah, so I wish my whole team could be here today, but I mean, that's a little quick introduction to who we are. We are pretty research focused. We're research driven, and we're really, I think the goal for at least the goal for us is really to just explore what are the big applications of a model of the model that we're building, and also understand what models are we going to build in the future. So we have some interesting prototypes that we're thinking about. Yeah, I would love to get kind of like feedback and perspective on that as we go forward. Now, how do we get started? This was the viral demo. I'll play a little quick version of this.
चलो हम जो ट्विटर के बारे में बात कर रहे थे उसी के आसपास मुझे लगता है कि इलॉन मस्क ने कुछ कड़वे शब्द बोले जिन्हें उन्होंने नहीं कहने चाहिए थे तो बता और समय के साथ सभी कंपनियों को अधिक उत्पादक बना सके तो यह वो चीज है जिसमें मैं सोचता हूं.
So this is Lex Friedman and Zuck speaking, and pretty much it seems to be like seamless and fluent Hindi. So this actually got us like, I mean, it had like 3.4 million views on Twitter. It also kind of blew up on LinkedIn. So this is where we had like, I mean, personally, I had like over 10,000 DMs, and just people that basically, I blew up my entire inbox, and I had no idea ability to respond to all of them. So yeah, it was cool. I mean, it was great validation for the product that we're building. And like basically over the last 2 months. So this was like the first iteration of our next generation model. It's not like it took forever to generate this, like it was very slow, but like we've been iterating. We just released today, actually. So I'll show you what happened on Twitter. So for all of you who are familiar with all the Twitter, like the culture, that's like the Twitter culture and like what's going on around the man in the arena stuff for Twitter. Yeah, we just kind of see like our new model is designed to work in HD, and we're trying to figure out basically how to use it in different situations. So this scene was a very good example of like a lot of different cutscenes all together. So there's a close-up, you'll see as I play it, but there's a close-up, there's like a much smaller face in the background. There's multiple people in the scene itself. So our model's performing pretty well, actually, and pretty decently well, I would say. There's still room for improvement. And I'll talk about some of the things that we're doing to improve it if you guys want to talk about that after, but I'll show you this video clip real quick.
मुझे अपनी पीठ दिखाने की हिम्मत कैसे की 10这样摘下你的头盔告诉我你的名字 是马克西姆斯，西马斯梅利蒂斯，北方军队的指挥官 ，General de las Legiones Félix, fiel servidor del verdadero emperador Marco Aurelio. Rosareta Musconofish, Rosareta Kinofish. तेरा नाम
Yeah, so you can see there's a lot of variability in the different, like there's different people, there's a lot of different like angles and lighting. So our goal is to build a model that's fairly generic, so it can work pretty much like in the wild on a lot of different videos. I think that what really makes this different is like a lot of the folks in this space who are going after the digital avatars, they're just focused on the single use case, which is the talking head video. So there's one speaker in a very controlled environment. It's just like basically I'm looking into the camera. So when you have time to like pre-train the model, if you have data and you have time to pre-train the model on a specific speaker and you have time to wait for an output, those types of models actually work really well for like those like talking head videos. So you've seen a couple other viral demos go on Twitter. It's mostly been around like synthesizing these like digital twins of people, and basically these digital twins are just like looking into a camera and speaking. That's actually not the goal that we're going after. We want to build a model that's more versatile, that can work in a lot of different environments and a wide range of scenes. So going after production studios, going after like the Netflixes, the Hulus, like the Warner Brothers, like those types of big production like content houses. So far it's been going well. I think the results of our experiments we're getting closer, I would say. We're definitely getting closer. So it's been a pretty cool ride. Cool. I think that's like everything that I really wanted to just kind of put out there. And I guess I'll let you guys ask me any questions around the model itself and kind of like how we implemented the stuff that we're going forward with.
I don't have a question, but I want to inform you about something. There is I'm going to put the link in a chat room so you can see. So there's an event coming up in 12 days called Academy of Digital Art, Science and Culture. And what I was told, the event is virtual. It's set up in a Las Vegas forum, and they're going to virtually streamline it to 160 countries. Each country, it's the same avatar, is an AI avatar. But let's say if I'm in Switzerland, while the avatar here in Vegas is speaking English, I will hear it in their own language, Swedish but I'm going to put the link here. The gentleman who had established this award, he's our board member. But that might be something that will help you to you. And I'm gonna send your information to him as well. I don't know who they're using right now and how successful the launch will be, but that's what I was told. That everybody in their own country can watch the same avatar, but in their own language. Which was amazing.
That's super cool. That's actually, I mean, that is the vision, right? Even on this Zoom call, I think the part that we're trying to focus on is like performance and variability for that exact reason. So imagine I'm speaking in English and you want to listen in your native language. Like there shouldn't be a barrier. There should no, like language should no longer be a barrier. And that's really kind of like the vision that we're going after. And when you think about the like even like the dubbing solutions right now, our brains are wired, like it fosters a sense of trust when we see the lips synced with the audio that we hear. So that's why when you like translate a piece of content into like let's say like away from its like traditional language or from its source language, you see a drop off in engagement. Like let's say 100,000 views comes from the original, you'll see maybe around a 10K or 15K or 20K in usage when it's translated into another language. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't drive the same amount of engagement. And that's like kind of like the polish that we're focused on right now. Getting it to work in real time would be amazing. And I think that's definitely, I mean, that's on a roadmap. It'll probably take us a couple months to get there. But imagine having like a Zoom plugin where, yeah, I mean, basically it's like a universal Babelfish, right? Like I can talk in whatever language I want. You can listen in whatever language you want. It's like we're trying to build that like science fiction, that experience, right? Like pretty cool.
No, I agree with that. I like the way it was translated. Your movies felt better, felt more natural than there's a lot of TV series on Netflix that I really like to watch. It's just that I get bored after a while because the translation, it kind of, it's not matching the feeling of the characters. But no, I agree with you.
So one thing that we're actually ideating on right now, even if we can like modify the lips and make it look like someone is saying something, the facial expressions of the delivery are still out of tune. So in the sense like, if you saw Marcus Aurelius, if you saw like in Gladiator, he's blinking while he's saying specific things, like when he's like delivering these like really intense lines. In reality, we probably wouldn't be doing that. So we're basically gonna train a model that'll modify the facial expressions, modify the eye movements, modify like we're going after lips first, but the idea is to expand across and basically yeah, I mean like modify and synthesize humans in video. I mean, that's really the goal for us.
Yeah.
What about, so I have a question. Are you offering an API to other businesses right now or not yet?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, this week we launched our first set of paying customers actually.
Okay, then my other question is, can this API be used, let's say for video chat or just a regular chat? If two people are chatting in different language, can be used for that?
Right now it would be too slow, to be honest. It wouldn't be the ideal user experience. Right now, for around 1 second of video to generate, it takes us roughly 15 seconds. So it's actually pretty slow. It works well for like offline use cases like movies and YouTube videos, but yeah, we will get it. That's kind of the focus right now, is actually just on quality of output. Over the next month, our focus will switch towards like performance and just making it run faster. But yeah, we'll see. I'm also hiring probably 1 or 2 engineers because I need help with that. So
can you put your email in the chat for me, please, so I can contact you later?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Mary, for this question. And if there are any extra question from attendees, you feel free to just unmute and ask it in real time.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So this might sound like a really random question. You mentioned you got a bunch of like messages and in your inbox with the demo. I'm so curious, like what were people asking? If you know, if you could take it up themselves, or was it more for they want to do it for other like video or content that they wanted to watch in their language?
Super
Or
cool
maybe it's
question.
just like purely like fan. They're just really big fans. Well,
All of
curious
those are
what- yeah.
So basically all of those are true. So I did, like, I guess we can bucket into a couple of different, like one, there were just people who were excited, they wanted to use it. I had a lot of people reach out because actually it was actually a really interesting use case. They were like, I want to use your API because there's a specific course that I want to take and I'm struggling to follow it. So like MIT's deep learning course, for example, they wanted to like listen to it in their native language. I thought that was a really interesting use case. Other ones like content creators reached out, like some really big podcasters reached out. It was really funny. I had like a kind of a fanboy moment because I basically got on a call with Kevin Rose, and I've like grown up listening to Kevin Rose and Tim Ferriss. So I got on a call with them. They wanted to localize content, had a super fanboy moment. And yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Like there's a lot of people who reached out for the use case of, I want to increase the reach of my like I want to basically increase the reach of my content. So whether those are like independent content creators, whether those are streaming providers, like we actually had a couple of streaming providers reach out to us too. Really interesting. I had a couple like production studios like interested, basically DMing us around how can we use this for like 4K videos. I mean, we're just kind of far off from there where it's a function of like data and time for training. So we'll get there eventually, but it's just not something we can do right now. Another really interesting subset of use cases were people who are going after that digital avatar use case. So like I had a couple enterprises reach out for like they're launching their own products, like basically like either like text to presentation or presentation to video. So like you upload a PDF or a PowerPoint, it automatically will generate like a presentation instead of someone having to go and like give a presentation. So they wanted to use our model for basically like the avatar generation. So that was pretty interesting. I don't know if that's like a massive use case going forward, but it gave us the idea of going after enterprises. So like how we make money is we have this managed API, pretty simple. It's like, I mean, it's like you guys like 12 Labs. Like we charge per usage. We have the secondary business model, which is we're going after these bigger deals. Those will be like a custom enterprise deal, whether we sell like a seat to use the license, whether we let someone put that on premise, whether we let them kind of embed it into their own products, like it's all up for negotiation. We're kind of in this like unique, fun little discovery phase when it comes to the enterprise deals, like just what's going to be the big ones that stick. So yeah, we're growing pretty quickly, I would say. It's been fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, maybe can you also share a bit more about the actual technology, the research that power this lip syncing solution? I think in your previous chat you're talking like the web to lip model, right? Maybe you can tell about like the process of maybe the origin of like building that model and challenges along the way, data training, etc.
So yeah, my two co-founders, they're like the original researchers behind like that open source model Wave to Lip. So they've been working on this space for a while. I mean, basically like the model that we have right now is based off of a similar architecture for Wave to Lip. I mean, it's a traditional GAN. How it works is we point like the discriminator against the generator. The discriminator is actually the most important part for us, which is how, I mean, essentially it just like determines whether the lip sync is good or not. Like we basically, the good thing about the way that we're doing it is our training data is actually any video in the wild, right? So like this presentation, like we can use it and we can use it to train a discriminator because lip syncs normally, like any normal video that anyone generates, the lip sync is 100%. So our discriminator actually performs extremely well. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, James. So our discriminator like actually performs really well. The generator is what we're basically like iterating on. Now the generator architecture, I actually can't speak a lot about what the next generation architecture is going to look like, but I mean, it's like I mean, the one that we're using right now is an old school, like CNN. Yeah, I mean, if there's specific questions, I can answer them. It'd probably be easier if someone had a specific question to talk about.
Yeah, no worries. That sounds great. I think folks who are interested in like checking out they can take a look at the code on GitHub, to learn more. So see. Any other question from the audience?
A great
Is
question.
there,
Yes.
oh, that's a great
So
question, actually.
it's a really great question. So we're experimenting with that right now. There was actually a paper that came out about 2 weeks ago. It's called diff to lip. If you want to find that, James. So we reviewed the paper. Results are pretty decent. We didn't give it great reviews, to be honest, but it is a step in the right direction. I really can't talk about the architecture that we're playing with right now, to be honest, because I think it's just too early. Once we kind of have some good results, we get closer to launching that model, I can probably talk about it. But I think we have a good handle on what the next version of this is going to look like. Diffusion is interesting. Yeah, diffusion is interesting, but I don't know if it'll give us the precision that we really require for like going after, let's say, these higher end models. There's like two approaches. One is like this generic approach that we're kind of going on, and then HeyGen is probably another company that's people are probably familiar with that are doing something along the lines that we're doing. They're taking a very speaker specific approach, so they're focused on the avatar use case, which is actually pretty interesting. I think the approach that we want is we have this generic base model. And instead of having to fine tune it, which is actually pretty expensive on every speaker, maybe we can build something where, like something along the lines of how LoRa can extend stable diffusion for a specific use case. If we can build this base model plus build the ability to create these, like, let's call them like these extension files or something like a LoRa, I think that's the best approach that we can take going forward. It would just give us the most versatility. It would let people kind of do the most with what we have right now. You can train it basically for whatever use case you want. So yeah, we'll see. I will say diff to lib is interesting. I want to play with the code when it comes out, but at the same time, I don't know if that's the future of what we're going to work on.
Great. So Young, do you want to ask something?
Yeah. This question comes because we're 12 Labs is also we do video, and I think that exciting but tricky thing about video is that the topic of the video, the context, the video type, the content type, maybe it's the angle. There's so many components to it, that makes up the story. It could be a sports video, news, maybe it's creator content, an interview like you showed in the demo. Is there something that you're noticing in terms of the type of video and the topic? Maybe it's in the visual, that makes it almost harder for the model to tackle, or like much easier to tackle?
Mm-hmm. The way that we're set up right now, the way that most like the lip syncing models are set up, it's actually one of the biggest, this is really funny, but one of the biggest, like one of the most annoying things to deal with is a beard, which is really funny. It just makes, yeah, which it just makes like detecting the lips, like precisely detecting the lips very difficult. Especially that's compounded when someone is moving around and like in a natural setting. So that's super annoying. It's definitely really annoying. I think we have an interesting approach to where we'll be able to deal with that. But we'll see. I mean, it's still up for grabs. Like we won't know until we start to experiment. That's one. I mean, a couple other things like right now, the model works frame by frame. So we're adding contextual awareness going forward, but I'm kind of concerned about that when it comes to like movies, for example, because like, I mean, we'd have to break it into scenes first. Like, for example, if you move from one scene to another where there's like a close up of the face and then we pan out and it's like the face is far away. I don't know how well like making it contextually aware might actually be detrimental to how good the lip sync is. Yeah, there's a lot of open questions. I think it's just like a experimentation problem, to be honest. We just got to run more experiments.
Got it. It sounds like a lot of the use cases are like localization, so it's very fact based. Where the video, what the person is already saying, is translated and probably all like very accurately, and they speak it in different languages. Have you ever also considered like different, creative scripts, like creative talks, I guess? It's not necessarily localization, but more so on like maybe it's something that you want them to say, or something that's generated, or they're answering questions that people might have had about their content.
So we have explored that use case. Actually, our model performs pretty well when it comes to like just feeding it text to speech and having it like basically like synthesize, let's say like synthesize an avatar. It actually performs pretty well. It just all depends. Like we're taking a different approach than like some of the other players in the field, like Synthesia, for example. Like Synthesia, they generate the video from scratch. So they generate the avatar, they generate everything from scratch. We're more modifying video. So you would feed it a video, like let's call it a base video of someone, and then we would modify it based on like the text to speech or whatever audio that you're feeding us. So it does work pretty well, but I mean, I will say the downside is it's just like latency. Like latency is a problem right now. And it's not something that I think we're gonna solve immediately. We're actually like I'm optimizing just for growth. So I want to get out of the door basically as fast as possible, just start getting users using it. And I think the immediate use case was just like localization, because one, it doesn't have to be in real time, it doesn't have to be super fast. You can wait a couple hours for a video to generate. Our inference pipeline is built on modal right now, and I'm building it personally myself. So it's been kind of interesting to kind of figure out how to do that. I don't know. I mean, like when it comes to getting it closer to real time, I'm going to start thinking about that in the next couple of months, probably move off of modal and try and like build a more sophisticated approach to just like an actual real inference pipeline, not just like something just to hack together. So yeah, we'll see. That's like an interesting thing. I could actually use some advice on, like just like how should I think about building an inference pipeline to get it to real time? Something I've never done before, to be honest.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah. I guess another question I also have about the technology stack that you use for the lip sync generation, right? So I believe you use like GPT for translation and then 11 labs for the voice training, right? And then way to live is the part that create the lip sync. How's your experiment like stitching together that stack? How's your experiment using 11 labs and GPT in terms of ease of use, performance, accuracy, etc.
So we're not technically using we're using the new model is called Synchronizer, It's not, it's kind of, it is different than Wave to Lip. Just like the team kind of built Wave to Lip, so that's why I think we're getting branded like that, which is cool, but I kind of want us to move it away from that. So when it comes to the stack itself, I think ease of use is actually pretty easy. Like I built, like we had the first iteration of this model, and I actually built that whole like translation app, like a very bare bones, like, I mean, I won't call it an app, it was more of a script. Built the whole thing in like a weekend. So it's pretty easy to use. One problem when I see with GPT for translation, I mean, it works pretty well for, it works pretty well out of the box, like, but it only works really well for like English to another language or another language to English. I think like, let's say from German to Hindi or Hindi to like Vietnamese, for example, is not great. It's really not great at all. So I think that's one limitation. Might just be a function of like how it was trained or the data it was trained with. But I'm sure that's like a problem that can be solved with fine tuning. Performance wise, it is pretty fast. I mean, GB4, you can't really get around the latency there, but it works well. I think it's worth the wait. It's in the stack itself, I think our synchronizer is actually the longest. It takes the most amount of time. 11 Labs is good. TTS is great. They just released their new model, like I think maybe 2 weeks ago, a week or 2 weeks ago. They added support for a bunch of new languages. It does a really good job with international languages like Japanese and Chinese. So that was pretty easy to use. I will say the future of these like translation tools, like right now the flow is you feed it, let's say a source video, we transcribe the video, we use a transcription to actually translate with GPT-4, and then we take that translation from GPT-4, feed it into the text-to-speech from 11 Labs, generate the text-to-speech, so then generate the audio, and then feed the audio back into the video. So like that whole pipeline, when there's an error, it's like a lot of models kind of like jerry-rig together. So when there's an error, let's say in transcription, it propagates through the whole thing. Now, I think Meta released a model which is really interesting, which is like a speech-to-speech translation model. I forgot the name of it. I think it's like Generate M4T or something. They call that a very of action transfer models.
I looked it up.
Yeah, so like Meta released this like basically speech to speech translation model, which works really well. The problem is it doesn't preserve voice. So I think there's another pipeline that can be built out. Like if you use a speech to speech model where we don't have to transcribe, we'll just translate directly audio to audio. And then the new audio is in another voice, but then you can use like an RVC model or like some sort of voice to voice model, conversion model, and then just like basically turn that into the original source speaker's voice. And then feed that into our synchronizer model. I think that would be probably a better approach. But yeah, Meta's code is kind of like is good, but it's kind of annoying because you have to chunk it up into like bite-sized chunks, like 10 to 15 seconds at a time. So it gets a little annoying to use. I'm just rambling at this point. So if you guys have any, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, put up. Yeah, I think it's like a multilingual, multimodal AI. It's pretty
It's
new.
really,
so-
it's super good. Super good. Scary good, actually.
Okay. Pranay, do you mind sharing a bit like what are action transformer models and how like they can help with some decision?
Could you repeat that?
Oh no, I just talked about the comment that Pranay put in the chat about action transformer. Action transfer. No, sorry, not action transformer. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's important to note it's not a transformer, even though it might run on a transformer backbone. Action transfer models let you transfer actions. And so say you have your dubbing from I guess English to Hindi, or just your Hindi dubbing of Gladiator, then what you're able to do is, well, audio is not really a big deal in terms of you just need to make sure that that's synchronized, which is I make it sound a little easier than it kind of is. Still a thing you want to make sure you get right. But the action transfer part of it is say you're able to get someone or some model to speak the Hindi version of it, as well as capture whatever more you want, so facial expressions. Then you can transfer those actions in terms of like eye movements, how the lips are different, etc., to the target. And therefore you can actually keep like 98% of your video the same. And so this is going to solve the much more streamlined inference of the stuff that you actually want to be changed, which is like you want the words to synchronize with the motions of your lips and the eyes and whatever facial expressions. Leave the other stuff untouched, so you still have fast inference on high resolution, and just avoid artifacting as much as possible. And there's a huge amount of training data that's available for people speaking a language, and that being like the lips and facial expressions, etc. So you might not have the exact quote, but you essentially could look into building like a foundation model for this, and then fine-tuning it for this particular purpose. Or you can just like do it yourself and have like either a 3D mesh or a nerf, or both, that would be able to capture it if you have like a very specific application that you want to apply it to, or like a specific line with words that may not be repeated often. So it's really about looking at what limitations you have. And I mean, coming from doing super resolution with diffusion models, for video, is like inference time is a meme. You just don't even have that. So you want to, it's like trying to figure out how can you get inference time. I'm assuming that training is not like the biggest bottleneck, although of course you'd want to limit that as much as possible. I think getting closer and closer to real-time inference is the big issue. So that's what makes things like a true autoaggressive model a bit difficult to use. But then, you know, there are ways that you can kind of get around that. GANs are nice because you can just output, like, you can sample pretty effectively, but then they have their issues. Over the last 2 years, though, there have been, I'd say 2 years ago, 3 years ago, GANs were state of the art in images and video quality, even though they suffered from things like mode collapse. Nowadays, there are things that rival / surpass GANs.
Yeah. Actually, can we connect offline after this? Actually, I would love to kind of pick your brain on, I think that's an interesting point with the action transfer models. I think we're exploring some different avenues right now. I prefer to kind of explore that with you one-on-one. But yeah, we're in an interesting and exciting place with where we are on the research side. Yeah, I think the one thing that's limiting us is actually the engineering, not the research. Like, we just need the ability to run more experiments and run them faster, and be able to actually track track very quantitatively what are the outputs of these experiments, and like what's actually being improved versus just kind of looking at it and eyeballing and saying, oh, is this like lip syncing improved or not? I think one interesting use that we're using our discriminator for is like actually just like discerning how good, like just scoring the lip sync in general. Like there's kind of like 3 areas that there's 3 areas of improvement we can do. Like one is performance. That's pretty much table stakes for us. Number 2 is accuracy. So like how good it actually the lip sync. So our goal right now, like we're scoring around like 85 to 90% on most like content we create. We want to get up to like 95. I think getting from 90 to 95 is probably like maybe 6 months of work. But then 95 to 97 or 95 to like that 99 that's gonna be like a grind. That's gonna be pretty interesting. And then the last one is precision. So we do generate a lot of artifacts today. I think an approach that we need to reduce the number of artifacts that we generate. Right now, our solution to it has been we built this other model. It's called like Synergizer. It is some form of an upscaler, essentially. I mean, basically what it is. And it's like we run it as like a post-processing step, and it reduces the number of artifacts significantly. Now, it does increase the time it takes to produce the result by almost 10x. So it is definitely geared towards offline use cases. We will not be able to get that to work for like, real time, but so we can't rely on it for real time. So like the goal for us is like getting our synchronizer to like getting the architecture right, and kind of figuring that out. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. We can talk offline. Synchronizer use contextual labels,
Yeah.
or like, does it have, are the artifacts semantically different enough so that they're intrinsically like context labels? Something like a beard, eyes, hair.
Yeah. As well as I'll have to ask my co-founders actually to be more specific. I don't want to just say something. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's cool.
yeah.
I don't know most things.
I mean, I'm just learning as I go, but it's good. It's good.
Yeah, great, awesome. Yeah, Pana is actually part of the Manifold research group, right? And I'm sure you guys did a lot of interesting stuff in multimodal, maybe like that can help be helpful in this domain. Yeah, so you guys can connect afterwards. We're almost at the top of the hour. Unless there's any other question, it seems like folks, Prady, what's the best way for people to connect and learn more about the product and give feedback and help support along the way?
Yeah, for sure. I think the best way to keep in touch with what we're building is just Twitter. So you can follow me at the real. I'll just throw it in here.
Yep.
Yeah, Twitter is definitely the best way we're kind of building in public as much as we can. I think we're trying to keep, I mean, obviously we can't talk a lot about the architecture that we're using until we figure out exactly what it is. So we're in that stage right now, but you can also email me I would love to get to know each of you actually. If you guys want to have any questions or anything you can help me out with, you can email me. I just threw my email in the chat. Yeah, I think we're kind of in an interesting space, and it's like a lot of fun. So the big thing for us right now is just like aligning the team, building the team, aligning the team, getting us to kind of like go from this garage mentality mode into like, let's get to the next stage, right? So we just closed a small round. We're gearing up to kind of like get into the hyperscale phase. So yeah, it's a lot of growing pains, but it's good.
Yeah, awesome. Also curious, like, you work at Microsoft right before this, right? What, like, doing some research at big tech and now kind of building on your own, creating your own startup. What is like some of the biggest challenges, I assume, going from like a big tech research environment to building a product around your research?
Big tech has so much support that they give you. I mean, I took it for granted while I was there, but I mean, running experiments, we had a system to run experiments. Like being able to, like after we deployed a model in the wild, we had a system to monitor how effective it was actually. Like we had guardrails around it. Like we had so many support features and so much infrastructure set up so that like we were allowed to we could easily like train models. We could also like push them into staging and like train, like see how they would actually, we would be able to see how they would perform without actually impacting customers, which was amazing. And the last thing is we deploy to production and actually be able to like see how they impact customers in real time and have guardrails around it as well. So we'd be able to turn them off or turn them on or whatever it is. Like all the infrastructure is, I just took that for complete granted. I think that was like the big difference. Now we're kind of in this like, okay, if it fits, it ships kind of mode. And we don't all like, maybe like every iteration of the research might not be honestly maybe better than the last one. It's kind of hard to tell. There's not like, we need to kind of set up like metrics around how do we do this? Like, how do we actually like define one version, if one version is better than the last? So I think those things, like it was very fun to be at big tech and building these types of products, and being able to work with like the research teams in big tech, because like another problem is, it's not a problem, but it's like a unique kind of mind frame shift, which was like in big tech, if you have a problem, you can go and find someone who's basically hired to solve that problem. Like they're very specifically focused in that area and you can go and ask them as an expert. For us, we don't really have that. So we all have to have more of like a generalist approach to things and just like be willing to learn as we go. It includes on the research angle as well. So one thing I have noticed though is like 99% of research, this may be kind of, I mean, I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, but I think 99% of like PhDs or researchers they're not necessarily creative in a sense. Like creative problem solving is kind of difficult to come naturally. Like as an engineer, I think we're just operate like, we don't know what we don't. We know that we don't know something and we go and figure it out. I think in research, it's like it's a little bit different where it's like, so true. I'm glad someone resonated. Thanks, Mary. So I think like for us, I think it's for me, the number one thing I look for in my team is creative problem solving. And I think creative problem solving with my two co-founders, especially, I mean, they're like the backbone of our team. They've created something new before. They've created something new multiple times. They've like written papers that are very interesting in their own way and very creative in how they approach a problem, which is why I think it was a very good fit for us to get started with. And I think that's just like kind of what I'm looking for going forward in the team as well. I think as long as we can build a very like versatile team that has the ability to like take on new challenges and new problems, whether that's in research, whether that's in engineering, whether that's in product, whether that's in design or whatever it is, we can keep it very small team and move very quickly. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a great way to end our series. Yeah, for folks who well, thanks everyone for joining. First of all, thanks Prady for spending your time walking over the story of SynchLab and answer a bunch of great questions, and hopefully folks who attend can reach out him on Twitter, email him, and then give some feedback, provide some ideas that are asked on solution. The recording of this webinar will be available in about like 2 weeks or so. So yeah, we'll be sure to publish on YouTube, and everyone can go back and check it out. Yeah, thanks everyone for spending the time today with us. And we're on this series on a weekly basis. So be sure to come back next week for future speaker talking about next innovation in multimodal and video AI. Enjoy the rest of the week.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Great meeting. And by the way, before you hang up, I didn't get the copy of the video for the last week.
Oh yeah.
If you can email it to me for Astoria, I'm very interested about that. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.